Coming up tonight on VCU InSight.
Birds have migrated into Richmond, but these are electric. I'm Tai Wong, and I'll show you how the city of Richmond feels about these birds.
I'm Precious Banks, and I'll tell you how VCU freshmen are making headlines.
A change for the James. I'm Jacob Sexton. Now we'll go into further details about a master plan to help out the James River Park area.
All this and more?
VCU InSight starts right now.
From the Richard T. Robertson School of Media and Culture at Virginia Commonwealth University, named Best Student Newscast in the Mid-Atlantic, this is VCU InSight.
Good evening and welcome to VCU InSight. I'm Alex Doherty.
And I'm Tanisha Brother Sutton. Thanks for joining us. Virginia Commonwealth University is back in session with more freshmen than ever.
And as VCU InSight's Precious Banks tells us, campus housing is handling the demand.
That's the sound of this year's VCU freshman class living in the Gladding Residence Hall, or GRC, on campus. VCU says about 4,600 freshmen enrolled in August, the largest beginning class yet. That's a 9.5% increase from last year. Juliana Severo is one of those new freshmen. She says she had no problem getting to live in GRC, her first choice.
So, I might have gotten lucky, but I did mine pretty early, so I guess the earlier you do it, the better chance you have of, getting it nice.
Matthew Lavista is with VCU's Division of Student Affairs. He says 3,800 of the enrolled class calls the university home.
So we have plenty of room for all of our freshmen.
Freshmen live in half of the VCU's 12 residence halls, which can handle a total of 6,500 students.
Back in 2016, this was just a construction site. Now sitting on 360,000 square feet, Gladding Residence Halls opened its doors to class of 2022 August 1st.
Like Severo, who's very happy with her new place.
It can't be that nice, it's a dorm, but then I came here and it's literally I love it.
Building GRC was budgeted at $96 million, and now freshmen from the class of 2022 calls it home. For VCU InSight, I'm Precious Banks.
VCU has been holding town hall meetings where students and faculty can weigh in on future plans for the university. At open house sessions held this month, the public was able to review the university's One VCU plan. Those plans include creating a more visible front door for the campus, partnering with GRTC for better transportation options, and making room for 2,000 additional students to live on campus. A final draft of the plan is expected in December. The City of Richmond is also giving the public a chance to weigh in on its plans for the future. The city will host several open house sessions this month to showcase the Richmond 300 initiative. It's the city's master plan, laying out goals and priorities for the next decade. The last master plan for the city was developed in 2001, but Richmond has grown by 30,000 residents since then. You can find the time and place for the next open house at richmond300.com.
Back to VCU campus, Monroe Park is still fenced off. It was originally slated to open mid-August. The park has been closed since November 2016, with 12 to 18 months of renovation scheduled. The fences were set to be removed in August and then in mid-September, but those plans have been pushed back due to heavy rainfall this summer. A new pavilion has been added to the park in the past month. As of now, the ribbon cutting is still scheduled for September 27th.
Electric birds have ruffled some feathers at the City Hall. Last month, a flock of electric scooters showed up on the city sidewalks, and as InSight's Tai Wong reports, at first the city wasn't happy about it.
VCU student Christopher Richardson is heading to class.
I love them so far. They've been great.
On an electric scooter he found on the sidewalk a few blocks away. A company called Bird Ride is dropping off these dockless scooters in busy spots around Richmond.
The Pulse bus only provides a certain area, whereas these Bird scooters really help with the last mile solution for humans trying to get to wherever they're trying to go.
For only $1, you can unlock any of these scooters around the city. After adding your credit card and your license using their mobile app, it's just as simple as scan, tap, unlock, and go. but the city wants it to stop. City officials issued a cease and desist letter saying the scooters are a violation of the city's code and that they have the potential to create a public nuisance and endanger the public safety. The city and the scooter company met a few weeks ago, both parties leaving the table saying they want to work it out. A spokeswoman for Bird tells us, "We are encouraged to see the Richmond community embrace our affordable, environmental-friendly vehicles as a way to easily get around town and visit local businesses." As for the city, Press Secretary Jim Nolan says city officials will nevertheless work with Bird with an express interest in Richmond to come up with a safe and legal way for such company to operate in the city. For VCU InSight, I'm Ty Wong.
And it looks like the city and scooter company may be close to working things out. Richmond Mayor LeVar Stoney is now proposing a scooter permit system. This would allow Bird and other scooter companies to operate legally in the city. The mayor's proposal would require companies to pay a $1,500 fee and an annual permit fee. The City Council will consider the permit system as its meeting on September 24th.
GRTC has extended service to Short Pump. Route 19 now runs every half hour from Willow Lawn to the West Broad Marketplace in Short Pump. Henrico County put in more than $1 million to expand the route. The new service kicked off on September 16th, along with other changes. The Pulse bus service expanded. It will now start at 5 a.m. on weekdays and will run every 10 minutes during the day. Expanded routes will also allow for night and weekend service to the airport.
Dog owners in Scott's Addition are concerned about a toxic weed that's been sprouting up in the neighborhood. InSight's Tyler Lane shows us the fast-growing plant that makes a dangerous snack for pets.
It's green, it's potentially deadly, and it's been growing in Scott's Addition. It's called Jimson weed, and it has the nickname Devil's Snare. After a neighbor found the plant growing along High Point Avenue, he took to social media to warn others. That warning caught the attention of dog owners like Tyler McKinney.
Yeah, this is Bo. She's a 14-week-old golden retriever. She's trouble and a handful, but she's the sweetest.
McKinney says he walks this curious pup up and down these streets as much as he can.
I mean, I see her eating random stuff all the time. I have a houseplant that's named Tom, and she's already destroyed like half of that, so she gets whatever she can get her hands on.
But warning others with online posts was not enough for some neighbors. After more residents became aware of the poisonous plant, they rallied together to do something about it.
Now I'm learning that a neighbor has come by to cut down and spray the weed with herbicide. You can see here that the plant is completely dead, but I talked to an expert who told me this plant is very resilient.
The trouble is that the seeds are incredibly tough coated, have a long lifespan. So if a mature plant has seeded onto your property, you're likely to be getting seedlings for a number of years yet until you've eliminated the base.
Lay says that if you do see Devil's Snare, the best way to get rid of it is to pull it out at the roots. Fortunately for dogs like Bo, a helpful neighbor did just that. For VCU InSight, I'm Tyler Lane.
Signs your pet has ingested Jimson weed include dilated pupils, dry mouth, and in severe cases, seizures.
The Virginia Department of Health says West Nile virus has been found in several mosquitoes in Henrico County. Heavy rains across central Virginia are leaving standing water, breeding grounds for mosquitoes. The Department of Health says the positive tests out of Henrico suggest that mosquitoes in other neighboring counties could also be carrying the virus. The CDC says about 80% of people who are bit by a mosquito carrying West Nile will not get sick. Symptoms include fever, headache, skin rash, and fatigue. And it sure has been easy for those local mosquitoes to find standing water. NBC 12 meteorologist Andrew Frieden is predicting this rainy year will end up being one for the record books. Richmond has now seen 47 inches of rainfall this year. That's already 3 inches over what we normally see for the whole year. At this pace, Frieden predicts that 2018 could end up being the second wettest year since 1889. 1889 holds the top spot with 72 inches of precipitation.
A local group has a plan to make part of Manchester into a park. The Richmond Bridge Park Foundation is promoting the plan. The idea would be to create another southbound lane on the Manchester Bridge, but instead of a driving lane, it would be trees and park space. The concept is based on a bridge park in New York City. While the idea is still a dream at the moment, the foundation has hosted several community meetings and experts have drawn up a plan for the bridge. The city would need to give final approval to make it happen.
It's finally getting cool enough outside to enjoy visits to area parks. One of the largest in our area will see big improvements, thanks to some serious fundraising and a new direction. InSight's Jacob Sexton has more.
The James River Park system spans over 550 acres through Richmond and is expected to draw over 2 million visitors this year. It's owned and funded by the city, but relies on groups like Friends of James River Park to keep the gates open. They just raised $250,000 to fund a 10-year master plan for the park system. The two development groups helping with the plan are Richmond's VHB, which worked on the Potterfield Bridge, and Hargraves Associates, who made the downtown riverfront plant. The president of the organization, Catherine Mitchell, says that they'll put the money towards protecting the park.
To make sure the little bit of development that we do is for highest and best use for the park, because it is one of the most valuable assets in the region.
According to the Richmond Times-Dispatch, this is the first master plan for the park in more than 50 years. The master plan includes improving infrastructure for the park, providing transportation across the park, and fully staffing the park. Like many parks, James River lives through their volunteers. Trails technician Andrew Ali is grateful for their support.
You know, we're very fortunate in that regard. We have so many different groups that have their specialty in helping us, and we wouldn't be surviving as a park without these volunteer groups.
8 other groups also contributed to the master plan. The plan will also work around existing plans with the city. For VCU InSight, I'm Jacob Sexton.
Volunteering events are held every second Saturday of the month at various locations on the river.
VCU School of Business is trying to give students the tools they need to start their own companies. InSight's Anaya Spraggs sat down with the school's director of entrepreneurship to talk about startups are being taught in the classroom.
Jay Markowitz is the Executive Director of Entrepreneurship Programs at the VCU School of Business. Thank you for joining us, Jay.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So it's my understanding that you write for the Richmond Times-Dispatch e-newsletter Startup Spotlight. So tell me a little bit about your column and what you write about.
Sure. Thanks for the question. The column is called Start by Starting, and the purpose of the column is to help those entrepreneurs, those budding entrepreneurs in the community that want to get started as an entrepreneur and really don't know how to do that. So the column will be very specific on, hey, if you want to start your project, these are the things that you need to do.
Okay. So what's the first line of action for someone when they decide they want to be an entrepreneur?
The first line of action, probably to ask themselves if they're ready. And then when they say, yeah, I'm ready, the first thing that I like to think about as an entrepreneur is to be an investigator, actually. So if you think about it, investigators go out, they see what problems exist, they look underneath the hood to see how it's working, they talk to customers, and they get a great understanding and perspective of the problem that they're trying to solve. That's the first steps of being an entrepreneur, is being an investigator.
Okay. And then as a VCU professor, what are some of the resources not only on campus but within the community that students have to start their entrepreneurship journey?
Well, I'll tell you, it's really exciting being an entrepreneur these days in Richmond because there are a lot of resources. Specifically for students, VCU is committed to supporting students in moving their ideas forward. So we have, in the School of Business where I teach, we have a minor in entrepreneurship that any student at the university can learn and study on how to be an entrepreneur. We also have a major in the School of Business. And then we have the Da Vinci Center. The Da Vinci Center supports our innovation and entrepreneurship initiatives across the university with certificates. They do boot camps and they support teams of students that are ready to move their project forward. In the community, this is where it's even getting more exciting, is we have a lot of groups and a lot of stakeholders coming together to support people that want to be entrepreneurs. It is a great time to be an entrepreneur in Richmond. We have Startup Virginia, which is a nonprofit. We have a brand new, beautiful building downtown, which is supported by Capital One. Activation Capital is a group that is going to put on events as well as the Venture Forum. We have accelerators like the Lighthouse Labs Accelerator, which is known across the United States, highly regarded, that brings in companies into the Richmond area. We have mentors, advisors. You can find them at SCORE. So as you can see, the community is coming together to support entrepreneurs and students at this time to start businesses. Great time.
Okay. So just to wrap it up, could you tell me a little bit about if someone is in the community trying to start up a business, how do they go about, reaching out to other organizations?
Well, I think reaching out is pretty straightforward, and one of the things you want to do as an investigator is also find your tribe. Who else is out there that can support you? So I would just probably do simple Google searches. Activation Capital is a central location where they can find things. So I would go there first.
Okay. Well, it sounds like, everything is going well in the business community. Jay Markowicz is the Executive Director of Entrepreneurship Programs at the VCU School of Business.
3 new stores are adding life to a once failing shopping center. InSight's Will Thomas checked in with the Regency Square developers 18 months into a $35 million renovation.
At the beginning of September, Regency Square had 57 stores. By the end of the month, it will have 60. A new road and an extra 44,000 square feet of retail space are in the works at the decades-old shopping center.
This is where most of the department stores were when I was growing up, before Short Pump and Stony Point were built. So this was kind of the go-to mall, but as those other bigger developments came along, we started going there.
Anna Matthews grew up going to Regency, but says the 1970s shopping center started to fall behind as other centers grew.
It's nice that they're at least making an effort, because hopefully it'll kind of grow this community to be able to compete with other places.
Rebke Company and Thalheimer Realty Partners bought the mall in 2015. 2 years later, Henrico County signed off on a redevelopment plan.
We've got 3 great stores that are open this month: Starbucks, Chipotle, and Mod Pizza.
Regency Square General Manager Stephen Bonneville says he ultimately wants to see a mix of local and national chains.
But really, we're looking at the property as a whole, trying to find the best use for what this 50 acres could be. And we've got them all sitting in the middle, so we're trying to reuse as much of that as we can.
Thalheimer Realty Partners Senior Vice President Mark Slusher said that potential vendors would not even consider a move to Regency until the Quiocassin Road overpass that used to stand here was demolished. The removal of the overpass makes the mall more visible and accessible. Thalheimer Realty Partners and Rebke Company are footing the bill for the improvements to the road, and the county says it should be finished by peak shopping season this fall. For VCU InSight, I'm Will Thomas.
Regency plans to open more stores as redevelopment continues. The Starbucks, Chipotle, and Mod Pizza are just the first stores to open as part of that plan.
The FDA has given e-cigarette companies 60 days to find a way to keep teenagers away from their products. The directive puts pressure on local e-cigarette manufacturers like Altria and Avail Vapor. According to the National Youth Tobacco Survey, e-cigarettes use is up 75% among teenagers this year. Altria says it's working on a plan to reduce the number of teen users. The FDA says that if rates don't decrease, the agency will consider temporarily or permanently removing e-cigarettes from the market.
CDC says it's time to get your annual flu shot. This year, the Federal Health Agency recommends getting the vaccine by the end of October. Peak flu season doesn't start until mid-December, but doctors say it takes a few weeks for the vaccine to become effective. The CDC says everyone 6 months or older should get the vaccine. If you aren't a big fan of needles, the nasal spray version is also available this year.
With midterm elections just around the corner, local governments are looking for Election Day volunteers. In Richmond, election officials say they need at least 200 people to work the polls on November 6th. The shift is from around 5 in the morning to 7 in the evening. They say volunteers will help set up and greet voters and tally results. Volunteers will be paid at least $130 for their time. If you're interested, you can pick up an application at the City Hall or apply online through the state's election website. Another chance for you to volunteer, Richmond is participating in the Regional Day of Service called Give a Day RVA. The all-day service is an event on Saturday, September 29th. This is the largest day of volunteer services in the region. Volunteers of all ages can participate in more than 35 different projects, like cleaning up parks, planting trees, or painting. The event is sponsored by Hands On Greater Richmond. You could sign up to lend a hand by going to the City of Richmond's website.
A report from William & Mary shows that last school year, there were 1,400 homeless students in the Richmond school system. InSight's Tyler Lane talked with a local reporter who has seen the problem firsthand and is doing something about it.
A familiar face is behind a new outreach program called Mission from the Heart. CBS 6 News reporter Shelby Brown is here with us today. Thanks for being here, Shelby.
Happy to be here.
So it's my understanding that the mission of Mission from the Heart is to help out homeless students in the Richmond community.
And if you could believe it, here in the city of Richmond, there are almost 1,400 students that are homeless. People don't think about that. People don't think about how do they eat? How do they get the supplies that they need? How do they pay the fees that they have to pay? How do they pay for a field trip? When my children go to school every day, they don't have those worries. We just want to help out.
And you've been a reporter in the Richmond area for 17 years now. So how has covering the stories of other people led to the creation of this program?
Well, at CBS 6 News, we have problem solvers, and then we have regular general assignment stories. But in the 17 years, there are countless stories that have tugged on my heart, that I would go home at night and I would worry and think about the people that I met, that parents that didn't have food for their kids, or kids that didn't have the supplies that they need. And I have often been encouraged by my husband, by my friends and family members that have seen me maybe go the extra mile to do something outside of work for those families and those students. And they say, why not put together a foundation? Why not make it a mission? And that's really how I got started.
Do one of those stories stand out in particular to you?
I think we were talking earlier about a story that really, I'll probably get choked up telling you about it again, but there was a story of a family in Petersburg. They had a fire, and there were some family members that passed away. Some of the children survived because they jumped out of a window. I had the opportunity to interview them later, a few days later, and try to leave and go home after the story, and my car wouldn't leave. I had to drive back around to the hotel that they were staying at. And I knocked on the door. I wasn't really sure what I was going to say. And they were thankful that I had done the interview with them. And they were like, can we help you? And I said, is there something I can do to help? And so I had an opportunity, and I was honored to be able to help them with some clothes for their kids. I still feel choked up when I talk about it, but that is one thing that will always stand out for me. I've been blessed, and I feel like it's kind of my duty to be a blessing to other people in whatever small way that I can.
And the school year just started, so right now, what do these students need?
Well, what we are collecting, because we're partnering with a business, In Vogue Hair Salons, we are collecting brand new items. We're talking socks, underwear, brand new shoes, overnight duffel bags, toiletry items, anything that you think a kid would need.
And so I know that you're trying to partner up with more local businesses as the year goes on with the Pass the Bin Challenge. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we have collection bins at our TV station and at these two salons, but we would love for any organization, any civic organization, any student organizations, preferably at VCU. I mean, we're just open to the community at large. We will pass the bin to them and offer them the challenge to help us collect these items. And then our volunteer army will distribute those items.
So I know we already have a company lined up for October to take the bin. Tell me a little bit about that.
And so we're excited about that. A salon in Chesterfield, Top Notch Salons, they will take the bin for the next month and collect items. And then again, we will distribute them to local schools.
All right, so if you want to get involved, you can drop off donations to the CBS 6 News lobby in Richmond or at one of the two In Vogue Hair Salon locations in Henrico County throughout the rest of the month. Mission from the Heart.
The Mel RVA opened in late August and has caught the attention of many who enjoy Richmond's food scene. But as I found out, gourmet grilled cheese isn't the only thing heating up in the restaurant. You can't miss the Melt when walking down Carey Street. Standing out among other buildings, the colorfully painted storefront is sure to catch your attention. But the uniqueness doesn't stop there. The Melt also specializes in street food, including tacos and street corn, but the real draw is their gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches. But what makes this place so unique isn't just that it's serving up grilled cheese, it's what's inside that is sure to blow you away.
And of course, we have the glass-blowing entertainment.
Co-owner Brett Cameron came up with the idea with his business partner after his first glass studio, Nature's Own, became popular amongst curious onlookers.
I just decided we would make it more comfortable and put a studio inside of a bar or restaurant so people would have something to do instead of just standing.
The Melt also houses a full bar and retail shop where guests can purchase artwork created in the studio. Local restaurant goer Severin Didrikson has already been to the Melt a few times and believes its fusion of art and food separates it from others in Richmond.
I think Melt is a very interesting way of combining glass blowing and food because it's not a very traditional aspect that you would see in many restaurants.
Whether it's the grilled cheese or the glass blowing that becomes the favorite part for locals, Cameron's favorite part is seeing the joy he gets from satisfied guests.
Talking to people, educating, interacting, all the above. And of course, filling people's bellies and putting smiles on their face as well.
The Melt is also planning on offering glass blowing classes so people can learn the craft themselves.
And that does it for this edition of VCU InSight.
You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under VCU InSight. Let us know about any stories you'd like to see on our show.
And if you missed our show or would like to watch it again, you can find us on YouTube at VCU InSight. Thanks for watching. I'm Tunisia Brothers Sutton.
And I'm Alex Doherty. We'll see you next time.